This is Mike from GoCellPhoneRepair.com, and today I'm going to show you the new and improved method for replacing the screen on your Droid Razr XT925. You should be able to knock this out pretty quickly. It's much easier than before as the display comes already installed in the front assembly, and what that means is we don't have to go pick all this glass out. All we're going to have to do is transfer some of the hardware from the top on the inside of the phone. So this is literally like a 10 to 15 minute job, assuming everything goes well. And you can see here I have one that's pretty badly broken. We're going to take our T5 Torx driver and remove the two screws from the bottom of the phone. And if you've ever worked on an iPhone before, you'll notice that the display on this phone can be removed much like the back door of an iPhone 4 or 4S. The only difference being that we do have some cables on the inside that we need to address. So what you'll do is after you've taken these screws out, and also, of course, make sure you remove your SIM card and micro SD card from the phone. We should have an LTE, and then down in here, if you just push inside, you can eject that micro SD card. Make sure you have those removed before you go any further. At this point, what we're going to do is basically grip the phone with our thumbs and just kind of slide the display upward. You'll see that it opened up here at the bottom, just about 1/8 of an inch or so. And once it does that, you can kind of pull the display away from the frame itself. Once again, we do have a couple of cables that we need to address on the inside of the phone, so there will be some capped-on tape covering the FFC connectors on the inside, so you'll want to peel that off because we are going to reuse these, and they do need to be installed in order to make sure that the cables stay seated properly. There's one at the bottom, one at the top, and again, if you don't put these cables in just right, the phone will not light up or the touchscreen may not respond, so you have to make sure that you get those seated, and this is kind of the tricky part. I want something with kind of wide surface that's soft, preferably to go inside here and pry this gate open. This is probably the trickiest part of all. I don't really like using a metal anything really to open these up, and this one, in fact, if I remember correctly, it did work, but if you've got a plastic spudger, that'd probably be a lot better. And once you detach the bottom one, you kind of can move the display over to the side a bit and really see the top connector, and I recommend you do it in this order. So we'll go ahead and lift this piece, just open it up very gently. Remember, these are fragile, to say the least. And I also had my tape here across the top that I needed to take off. And at that point, you should be able to slide the cable out. And once you do so, all we need to do is take the hardware from the top where the earpiece is and transfer it over to the new assembly. So you're going to have a couple of screws here that hold a metal retaining plate against the frame, and then you're also going to have a little bit of adhesive that holds everything inside. So these two screws will actually be a T4, unlike the outside, which was T5. Go ahead and remove those two, and you should be able to move the plate off of the phone. Now you will notice that this stuff's pretty sticky, so we're going to go ahead and heat up the surface so that we can just gently pry underneath this earpiece assembly at the top. So you'll want to have a soft tool, something like a very lightweight pick should do the trick. And be very careful again right around these cables. They are pretty fragile, and it looks like they might have even put a little bit of adhesive underneath the earpiece itself. So do take your time and be very gentle. You don't want to rip this. If you do, you'll have to buy a new one. I don't believe they're that expensive, but it's just kind of a hassle when you have to go through that. All right, so once we've got that removed, we can go ahead and transfer it over to the new assembly. And here is the gasket for the proximity sensor. Do be sure that this gets moved across. If it doesn't, your screen will not shut off when you make a call. That is a very important part of the phone. Fortunately, there's only one way it sits inside the housing, so there's no way to make a mistake with that one. And what we're going to do now is put the retaining plate over the top, and if it got bent at all when you removed it, you want to make sure to kind of straighten it out a bit before you install it. And then we'll have our two T4 screws that go back on the inside. After this, the next part is just the reverse of when we removed the screen, and I think probably the trickiest part, getting these little cables to seat properly. They do have to be installed 100% on as far as they'll go inside, and then after you flip the connector gate down, you want to make sure you put that tape back on to hold it in place. This one you can see it was a little bit bent. I don't recommend pushing on this too hard because the logic board is still inside, but I was actually able to just bend the frame just a little bit because any slight bend to this is going to make it more likely that you'll break the glass later on down the line. So if you have a badly bent housing, you'll want to remove the logic board and go ahead and try to straighten that out, but don't put too much pressure on it while the board's still inside the phone. And as you can see, the top one's pretty easy because you've got a lot of freedom as far as where you can move. It gets a little bit trickier here because we've got to pre-fold this cable so that it points down, and I'll use the old assembly just to kind of get an idea of where that fold is exactly. Probably be easier to do this outside the phone, but I didn't have too much trouble at this point getting it to bend down to about the same point that the original one was. Doesn't have to be perfect, just as long as it folds back to about the proper area. And it looks like this one actually had a bit of adhesive behind it, so I'm going to go ahead and remove that and stick that down against that metal plate. And this will probably be the funnest part of all, and that is to get this thing tucked into the FFC connector. And of course, make sure that that's still open before you do. And then it'll just take a little bit of manipulation in order to get that thing plugged in all the way. And as soon as you do that, you want to flip the gate down, get the tape back on, and don't pull against it, because if you do, it will kind of go sideways on you on the inside. Those things aren't really sturdy as far as holding them in place. So again, if you have any trouble with the screen, the display, or the digitizer, once you put it in, go back and check those connections. They do get out of alignment every once in a while. And it looks like this one was still on. We weren't able to turn it off before the repair because there was no display. And that is about it. Go ahead and make a test call. Make sure your proximity sensor is working properly, and you should be good to go. If you found the video helpful, hit the like button, share it with your friends, subscribe to my channel, and follow me on Twitter or Facebook. Post your questions in the comment section below or visit gocellphonerepair.com/forum. Thanks for watching.